everyone, welcome to Medical Dialogues, your daily dose of health and medical news. I'm Mr. Zaman and here is what I bring to you all from the world of medicine. A drug, atezolizumab, that benefits cancer patients. Researchers treated a group of post-surgery bladder cancer patients with the immunotherapy drug atezolizumab and have found that patients whose blood contained circulating tumor DNA, that is ctDNA, responded very well to the treatment. The study is presented at the European Association of Urology Annual Congress 2022 in Amsterdam. The research was part of a large phase 3 trial, IM-BIGGER-010, which looked at whether giving atezolizumab for up to 1 year to patients following bladder removal surgery improved the patient's survival prospects compared to a group that received no further treatment after surgery but placed in an observation group. Part of that trial involved patients' level of ctDNA being measured after surgery and during further treatment or observation. Although the trial found no significant difference in overall survival between the two groups in the intention to treat population, researchers noticed that a subgroup of patients who were ctDNA positive showed a marked improvement when they were given atezolizumab. These benefits included significantly higher disease-free survival and significantly higher overall survival than the observation group. This effect wasn't seen in ctDNA negative patients. In addition, the researchers also found that patients that were ctDNA positive but subsequently changed to become ctDNA negative after treatment with atezolizumab ultimately had a particularly good prognosis. Researchers noted that patients who were ctDNA positive have a poor prognosis compared to those who are ctDNA negative. But this was the first time they have been able to show that with immunotherapy, they can actually change the course of the disease depending on a patient's ctDNA status. Cardiometabolic health in the very least percentage of population. Less than 7% of the US adult population has good cardiometabolic health, a devastating health crisis requiring urgent attention, according to the research led by a team with pioneering perspective on cardiometabolic health trends and disparities published in the July 12th issue of the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. Researchers evaluated Americans across 5 components of health, that is levels of blood pressure, blood sugar, blood cholesterol, adiposity, that is overweight and obesity, and presence or absence of cardiovascular disease, which may be heart attack, stroke, etc. They found that only 6.8% of US adults had optimal levels of all 5 components as of 2017-2018. Among these 5 components, trends between 1999 and 2018 also worsened significantly for adiposity and blood glucose. In 1999, 1 out of 3 adults had optimal levels for adiposity. That number decreased to 1 out of 4 by 2018. Likewise, while 3 out of 5 adults didn't have diabetes or prediabetes in 1999, fewer than 4 out of 10 adults were free of these conditions in 2018. The researchers also identified large disparities in health between people of different sexes, ages, races, ethnicities, and education levels. For example, adults with less education were half as likely to have optimal cardiometabolic health compared with adults with more education, and Mexican Americans had 1/3 the optimal level versus non-Hispanic white adults. Additionally, between 1999 and 2018, while the percentage of adults with good cardiometabolic health modestly increased among non-Hispanic white Americans, it went down for Mexican American, other Hispanic, non-Hispanic Black, and adults of other races. The consequences of the dire state of health among US adults reach beyond personal health. It impacts on national healthcare spending and the financial health of the entire economy, which are enormous, and these conditions are largely preventable, the authors concluded. How voice recognition in one can help control over the speech. Being able to recognize our own voice is a critical factor for our own sense of control over our speech, according to a study at Tokyo published in Psychological Science. If people think they hear someone else's voice when they speak, they do not strongly feel that they caused the sound. This could be a clue to understanding the experience of people who live with auditory hallucinations and could help to improve online communication and virtual reality experiences. A dysfunctional sense of agency over speech may be a cause of auditory hallucinations. This is a common symptom of schizophrenia, a mental illness characterized by distortions of reality which affects how a person thinks, feels, and acts. People with auditory hallucinations may hear voices when they are alone or not speaking and may find it difficult to identify their own voice when they do. Although some experiments have looked into people's sense of agency over their movements, until now sense of agency over speech has not been extensively studied. Researchers investigated the significance of self-voice in the sense of agency, which previous studies have never sought out. These results demonstrate that hearing one's own voice is a critical factor to increase self-agency over speech. In other words, one does not strongly feel that I am generating the speech if we hear someone else's voice as an outcome of the speech. This study provides empirical evidence of the tight link between the sense of agency and self-voice identity. Understanding this close connection between recognizing our own voice and feeling a sense of agency may help to better understand and support people with auditory hallucinations who experience a disconnect in this link. It could also help to improve our experiences online, where the voice we hear when speaking might be different to the usual, the authors concluded. Whether or not COVID-19 vaccine is effective and control different responses of the virus. Could the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine reawaken previous antibody responses and point the way to a universal coronavirus vaccine? A new analysis of the antibody response to COVID-19 vaccine suggests the immune system's history with other coronaviruses, including those behind the common cold, shapes the patient's response according to a study published in Cell Reports. Led by scientists at the Translational Genomics Research Institute, part of the City of Hope, and Northern Arizona University, a research team found that the vaccine generates antibodies that targets regions of the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein that are unique to the new virus, while also targeting regions of the protein that are shared or conserved among many coronaviruses. These findings could help fine-tune the design of the future vaccine or new monoclonal antibody treatments, perhaps leading to a universal coronavirus vaccine. Using a technology called PepSec, developed by the scientists, allowed the researchers to carefully map antibody responses and track them serially over 140 days in 21 people who received the Moderna SARS-CoV-2 vaccine. The technology matches individual peptides, which are the building blocks of proteins, with unique DNA tags. The tags allow scientists to pinpoint which peptides are being targeted by antibodies. Before technologies like PepSec, researchers had to measure the response of antibodies against one protein target at a time. PepSec allows them to perform up to hundreds or thousands of measurements of antibodies against different parts of the virus proteins, all at the same time from the same sample. PepSec also helps scientists precisely map the antibody response to specific regions of a protein. This allowed to track the differences in antibody response between divergent and conserved regions of the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. The theory is that there is actually memory from previous common cold coronavirus encounters, and when you get the vaccine for SARS-CoV-2, the vaccine reawakens some of those memories. Then you see this early response, which is basically just a rapid memory response to what you have already seen, and with time the immune system can reshape those responses more in the direction of the pandemic virus, the authors concluded. That's all for today. Stay tuned to Medical Dialogues for latest updates.
Never miss a medical update from Medical Dialogues. Like, subscribe, and press the bell icon.